So for our second example in the main course section of problems, we have log base 4 of x plus the log base 4 of x minus 6 is equal to 2. And so instead of giving you tons of detail like I did in the first one, I'm going to just go ahead and work through the steps here. We want to make sure we get one log on the left side. You're going to use the properties of logs to combine these two logs. The sum of the logs is the log of the product. And so we're going to rewrite the left side as just one log of the product of the two arguments. And now we notice that we have a log, we have a base, we have an argument, and we have this other number on the right. So we only have one log, and we have a number that's not a log. So then we're going to use exponent, the relationship between logarithmic form and exponential form, and we're going to rewrite the logarithmic equation using exponents. 4 to the second power is equal to x times x minus 6. Now we can go ahead and distribute that at the same time. X times x minus 6 is x times x which would be x squared, and then x times negative 6 is minus 6x. And now we can rewrite the left side as 16, and then we're going to go ahead and subtract 16 from both sides. We would recognize here that we have a quadratic equation, and quadratic equations, when we have all three types of terms, we're going to go ahead and put it in standard form, and we'll go ahead and write standard form like this. We're going to subtract 16, and then we're going to rewrite the equation. You don't have to do this, but standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we have that, and then the next idea here that we want to come up with is that there's two different things that we think about when we see a quadratic equation. We think, could we factor the left side and set the factors equal to 0, or would we have to use the quadratic formula? And in this case, the quadratic expression on the left hand side factors x minus 8, x plus 2 equals 0. So when we set the factors equal to 0, we get x equals 8 and we get x equals negative 2. And at this point you must be thinking, I think that negative 2 is going to be a bad number. And indeed it's a bad number, because you're not allowed to take the log of a negative number, and exactly that, log base 4 of negative 2 doesn't fit, because you can't take the log base 4 of negative 2. So negative 2 doesn't work, but if we try 8, and 8's a positive number, 8 minus 6 is also a positive number, so it fits both of the arguments, so therefore x equals 8 is our solution. X equals 8. Alright, let's try to get the next one in. In fact, I'm going to write down the next problem, and I want you to try to solve it. I want you to pause the video, and it's going to be a little bit challenging because it's got a little bit of a different look to it, but let's see if you're up for the challenge. ln of 3x plus 5 is equal to 4, and I did an example like this in the appetizer section, so maybe you'll be able to tackle this one. So go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to pause just for a moment, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, in order to help me see this better, I'm going to rewrite ln as log base e, and that's all I have to do to help me recognize that I get to use that property that says when I have a base, I raise it to the right side. I think I use triangle for that, and then that's equal to the argument. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to write e to the 4th power is equal to the argument 3x plus 5, and then you don't have to worry about e to the 4th. Just leave it as e to the 4th and subtract 5 from both sides, and subtracting 5 from both sides you get e to the 4th, because we don't have an exact value for that. That's an irrational number, so we just leave it alone. Leave it as the exact value e to the 4th. And do not ever substitute, unless you hear otherwise, do not ever substitute 2.718 for e, because that's more writing, number one, and 2.718, although it's very close, it's still an approximation of the exact value for e. Just like pi, we don't write 3.14 when we're dealing with pi, we just write pi. And that's exactly what we're doing here with the irrational number e. We're going to rewrite our left side as e to the fourth minus 5 over 3, and that's equal to x. And that is your solutions. Hopefully you got that.